Isabella Rossi clutched the edge of her desk as Alessandro Moretti entered the boardroom, his dark eyes scanning the faces until they locked with hers. A flicker of recognition quickly masked by cold indifference. 8 years had transformed the handsome young heir she'd once whispered promises to into the dangerous man who now controlled her career with a single gesture. The expensive suit couldn't hide the predatory grace in his movements as he approached, the scent of his cologne stirring memories she tried desperately to bury behind him. 2 men with concealed weapons positioned themselves by the door, a silent reminder of the Empire's true nature. Isabella's heart hammered against her ribs as Alessandro paused beside her chair, his fingers brushing her shoulder in what appeared to others as a casual greeting, but sent electricity coursing through her veins. A warning or a promise, she couldn't tell which. The Moretti family charity gala sparkled with wealth and power. A world 17-year-old Isabella Rossi had only glimpsed through the windows of her father's struggling restaurant. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors where Milan's elite mingled in designer evening wear. Isabella, wearing her mother's altered dress, felt painfully out of place. "Remember why we're here," her father whispered, straightening his rented tuxedo. "The Morettis could save our business. Just smile and be polite." Isabella nodded, though she didn't understand why her presence was necessary. Her father had been secretive about his connection to the notorious family, mentioning only past business dealings and a debt of gratitude. "There he is," her father murmured, nodding toward a distinguished man with silver temples, Franco Moretti. But Isabella's attention had already drifted beyond Franco to the young man at his side, tall and striking, with intense dark eyes that surveyed the room with casual authority. He couldn't be much older than 25. Yet everyone seemed to gravitate toward him with deference. "Who's that?" she asked, unable to look away. "Alessandro Moretti, Franco's son and heir." Her father's voice held a note of caution. "Stay away from him, Isabella. He's not like other young men." But fate had other plans. Later that evening, escaping the suffocating small talk, Isabella slipped onto a secluded balcony overlooking the Moretti estate gardens. The cool night air was a relief after the stifling ballroom. "Not enjoying the party?" A deep voice startled her. Alessandro Moretti stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the light. Up close, his features were even more striking: sharp cheekbones, full lips curved in amusement, and those eyes that seemed to see right through her. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't be here." She moved to leave, but he stepped onto the balcony, blocking her path. "Stay. It's refreshing to see someone who doesn't pretend to enjoy these tedious events." His directness disarmed her. They talked as minutes stretched into an hour about art, music, dreams. He listened when she spoke of wanting to study finance, to help her family's struggling business. There was no condescension in his manner, only genuine interest. "You're different from anyone I've met here," he said finally, his gaze intense. "Because I don't belong in your world." The words slipped out before she could stop them. His smile held a strange sadness. "Perhaps it's my world that doesn't deserve someone like you." The connection between them was electric, impossible to deny, when his hand brushed hers on the stone balustrade. Isabella felt her heart might explode. "Someday," she whispered, emboldened by the moonlight and his undivided attention, "I'll be successful enough to belong in your world. And then, his voice had dropped to a whisper, "I'll marry you." The declaration hung in the air, half serious, half fantasy. Alessandro's expression shifted, something dangerous and possessive flashing in his eyes. "Be careful making promises to men like me, Isabella. I might hold you to them." The moment shattered when her father appeared, face pale with worry. "Isabella, we're leaving, now." In the car ride home, her father's hands trembled on the steering wheel. "What did he say to you? What did you tell him?" "Nothing important," she lied. "Why are you so afraid?" "The Morettis aren't just businessmen, Isabella. Their empire is built on—" He stopped himself. "Just promise me you'll stay away from Alessandro." 2 weeks later, everything collapsed. The restaurant failed despite her father's desperate efforts. Then came the accident. A brake failure on a rainy night, they said. Her father didn't survive. At 17, Isabella became responsible for her younger brother and their mounting debts. The acceptance letter to Milan's prestigious business school gathered dust as she took the first of many jobs to keep them afloat. Sometimes, in rare quiet moments, she remembered the intensity in Alessandro's eyes when she'd made that impulsive promise. But dreams of belonging in his world died alongside her father, replaced by the harsh reality of survival. Alessandro Moretti became a distant memory, a foolish girl's fantasy, until 8 years later, when fate would force their paths to cross again. 8 years transformed Isabella Rossi from a dreamy teenager into a pragmatic financial analyst, with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. At 25, she'd finally achieved the stability she'd fought for. A respectable position at a mid-sized firm, her brother Marco successfully through university, and their debts nearly cleared. The email from Moretti Group's HR department seemed like a mistake at first. Companies of that caliber rarely recruited from firms like hers, yet the offer was real. A senior financial analyst position with double her current salary and benefits that would secure Marco's final year of medical school. "It's suspicious," Marco said over their weekly dinner. "You don't find it odd they'd headhunt you specifically?" Isabella pushed her pasta around her plate. "My portfolio speaks for itself, and we need the money. We're managing." Marco's eyes, so like their father's, studied her with concern. "The Moretti name still gives me chills. Dad was terrified of them, remember? Dad had his reasons, but we need to be practical." She squeezed his hand. "This is my chance to finally get ahead instead of just surviving." The Moretti Group headquarters occupied a gleaming skyscraper in Milan's financial district. Isabella's heels clicked against polished marble as she approached the reception desk, resume clutched in hand like a shield. "Isabella Rossi for Human Resources," she announced, fighting to keep her voice steady. The morning passed in a blur of paperwork and introductions. By afternoon, she found herself directed to the executive boardroom for a department meeting. "The CEO likes to personally welcome key hires," explained her new supervisor, Julia. Isabella nodded, smoothing her skirt as they entered the boardroom. Other employees were already seated, their conversation hushing as the door opened. "He should be here any." The words died as the far door swung open. Time seemed to slow as Alessandro Moretti strode in, commanding the room's attention without effort. The boyish good looks she remembered had hardened into masculine perfection. Broad shoulders beneath an impeccable suit, jaw more defined, eyes still penetratingly dark, but now shadowed with experience. Isabella's breath caught. 8 years had only enhanced his dangerous appeal. His gaze swept the room, pausing fractionally when it reached her. A flicker of something, recognition, surprise, crossed his features before disappearing behind a mask of professional indifference. "Ladies and gentlemen," he addressed the room, voice deeper than she remembered. "Thank you for your patience throughout the meeting." Isabella struggled to focus on his presentation, rather than the memories flooding back. Not once did he acknowledge their past connection, treating her with the same polite distance as any other employee. When the meeting concluded, she gathered her notes, heart pounding as he approached. "Ms. Rossi." His handshake was firm and personal. "Welcome to Moretti Group. Your reputation precedes you." "Thank you, Mr. Moretti." Two could play at this game of strangers. "I trust Julia has made you comfortable." His eyes revealed nothing. "Very much so." A slight nod. "Excellent. I look forward to your contributions to our financial team." He moved on to the next employee, leaving Isabella bewildered. Had she imagined their connection all those years ago, or was Alessandro Moretti simply a master at concealing his thoughts? Back at her new desk, Isabella tried to calm her racing mind. Perhaps he truly didn't remember her. She had been just one forgettable girl at one of countless social events. Her computer pinged with a new email from Alessandro Moretti himself. "Ms. Rossi, please prepare the Donati acquisition files for review. My office, 7 a.m. tomorrow." The message was businesslike, devoid of personal acknowledgement. Yet as she stared at his name on her screen, Isabella couldn't shake the feeling that her hiring was no coincidence. She dreamed of a moonlit balcony and a whispered promise that now seemed like a terrible mistake, because the Alessandro Moretti who'd returned to her life was no longer the young man who charmed her with his attention. He was something far more dangerous. A man with power, secrets, and perhaps a memory long enough to remember a 17-year-old girl's foolish vow. Working under Alessandro Moretti's leadership proved as challenging as Isabella had feared. He demanded perfection, his standards impossibly high. 12-hour days became her norm, analyzing financial records and preparing reports that he would scrutinize with merciless attention to detail. "These projections are too conservative," he said during their third morning meeting, sliding the folder back across his desk. "Recalculate with the parameters I outlined. With respect, Mr. Moretti, these numbers reflect market realities." Isabella stood her ground. More aggressive projections would misrepresent the risk factors. Alessandro's eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with something like appreciation. "Most analysts tell me what they think I want to hear. I'm not most analysts." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Clearly, that's why you're here." 2 weeks into her employment, Isabella began noticing discrepancies in certain accounts. Nothing overtly illegal, but patterns that suggested the Moretti Group operated in territories beyond legitimate business. Transfers to shell companies, investments in enterprises known for connections to underground networks, security expenses that exceeded normal corporate requirements. The dual nature of the Moretti empire became increasingly apparent. The legitimate face real estate, shipping, technology, operated alongside something darker that remained just out of view. One evening, working late, Isabella witnessed Alessandro greeting visitors who bypassed normal security protocols. Men with hard eyes and concealed weapons who spoke to him with deference, tinged with fear. She ducked behind a column when Alessandro suddenly looked in her direction, his expression shifting from business to something predatory. The next morning, a sealed envelope waited on her desk. Inside was a handwritten note. "My office, noon, come alone." Her first truly private meeting with Alessandro sent her pulse racing. His corner office occupied the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Milan. He stood with his back to her when she entered, silhouetted against the skyline. "Close the door, Isabella." Her name on his lips, not Ms. Rossi, sent electricity down her spine. "You've been investigating our subsidiary accounts." He turned, his expression unreadable. "I've been doing my job," she countered, refusing to show fear. Alessandro moved closer, the scent of his cologne enveloping her. "There are areas of this company that don't concern you. If I'm analyzing financial risk, everything concerns me." His laugh was soft, dangerous, still fearless. Some things don't change. The acknowledgement hung between them. The first confirmation he remembered her. "So you do recognize me?" Isabella's voice remained steady despite her racing heart. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Alessandro circled her slowly. "The 17-year-old girl who promised to marry me once she conquered the financial world." Heat flooded her cheeks. "A childish fantasy, was it?" His voice dropped lower. 8 years is a long time to remember a foolish promise. "Why hire me?" she demanded. "Was it amusing to see if I'd remember you?" Alessandro stopped directly before her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I've tracked your career since you graduated. Top of your class despite working 2 jobs. Impressive rise at Bianchi Financial. Remarkable resilience." The revelation stunned her. "You've been watching me all this time." "I make it my business to know exceptional talent when I see it." His answer was smooth, practiced, and not entirely truthful. "Is that the only reason?" Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Careful, Isabella. Some questions are better left unasked." Their gazes locked in silent challenge. The tension between them was palpable, charged with unspoken history and forbidden attraction. "Your father would be concerned about your curiosity," he said finally, the mention of her father like a bucket of ice water. "What do you know about my father?" Alessandro's expression closed. "Our meeting is over. Return to your duties, but stay within the parameters assigned to you." That evening, Isabella worked late again, deliberately waiting until the office emptied. Using her security clearance, she accessed files dating back to the time of her father's death. Nothing seemed connected until she found a small notation in a subsidiary's records. A restaurant acquisition around the same time her family's business failed. Her phone rang, startling her. Alessandro's name flashed on the screen. "Step away from the computer, Isabella." His voice was ice cold. She looked up to see a security camera aimed directly at her desk. "How did you?" "I told you some areas don't concern you. This is your only warning." The line went dead. Isabella stared at the documents on her screen, heart pounding. Whatever connection existed between her father and the Moretti family, Alessandro was determined to keep it buried. Yet as she gathered her things to leave, she couldn't ignore the dangerous attraction pulling her toward him, or the growing certainty that her presence at Moretti Group was no coincidence. Alessandro Moretti remembered exactly who she was, and behind his professional facade lay intentions she couldn't begin to fathom. Isabella couldn't leave the mystery alone, despite Alessandro's warning. Each night after work, she dug deeper into the Moretti Group's archives, carefully covering her digital tracks. The restaurant acquisition was just the beginning. A thread that, once pulled, revealed a complex tapestry connecting her father to the Moretti Empire. Antonio Rossi hadn't merely been a struggling restaurateur. Before opening his own establishment, he'd worked directly for Franco Moretti as some kind of financial advisor. The records were deliberately vague, but suggested her father had handled transactions too sensitive for official channels. Most intriguing was a series of transfers that coincided with Alessandro's ascension to power. Franco Moretti had stepped down as CEO 8 years ago, shortly after her father's death, handing control to his son at an unusually young age. The timing couldn't be coincidental. "What were you involved in, Papa?" Isabella whispered to the empty office, staring at the fragmented evidence. The next morning, a plain envelope waited on her desk. Inside was a newspaper clipping about her father's accident, with 3 words handwritten in the margin. "Stop digging now." Isabella's hands trembled as she slipped the clipping into her purse. The warning only strengthened her resolve. That afternoon, Alessandro called her to his office to discuss a potential acquisition. He appeared casual, relaxed even, but his eyes tracked her every movement with predatory focus. "The Torres Group is overextended," Isabella explained, presenting her analysis. "Their assets are inflated, hiding substantial debt." Alessandro studied her report with a slight smile. "Excellent work. Most would have missed the discrepancies. I learned to recognize when numbers tell a different story than the one being presented. A valuable skill." His gaze intensified. "One your father possessed as well." The deliberate mention caught her off guard. "You knew my father well." "Well enough." Alessandro leaned back, watching her reaction. "He was skilled at managing complex financial arrangements, much like you." "What kind of arrangements?" "The kind that require absolute discretion." His tone shifted, becoming dangerous. "The kind that, when betrayed, have serious consequences." Isabella's throat went dry. "Are you implying my father betrayed the Moretti family?" Alessandro's expression hardened. "I'm advising you to focus on your current work, not past history, for your own safety." "Is that a threat? A reality check?" He stood, approaching until mere inches separated them. "You're playing with forces you don't understand, Isabella." Her heart raced at his proximity, fear mingling with unwanted attraction. "Then help me understand. What happened to my father?" Something like regret flickered across his features. Some truths are better left buried. That evening, Isabella visited her brother's apartment, seeking answers Marco might not even realize he had. "Did Papa ever mention working directly for the Morettis before opening the restaurant?" she asked as they washed dishes after dinner. Marco's hand stilled. "Why are you asking about this now?" "Please, Marco. It's important." Her brother dried his hands slowly. "There was a box of Papa's things I kept after the accident. Old papers, photos. I never looked through all of it. The box yielded little at first: tax records, family photographs, mementos. At the bottom, however, wrapped in cloth, lay a small leather-bound ledger with entries in their father's handwriting. Most were in a personal code, but certain names appeared repeatedly. Franco Moretti, Alessandro, and another Vincenzo Carducci. This name, Isabella pointed. "Did Papa ever mention him?" Marco frowned. "I think he was Papa's friend who died a few months before him." Papa was devastated. A quick internet search revealed Vincenzo Carducci had been a prominent banker who died in an apparent suicide, leaving behind evidence of embezzlement. The case had made headlines briefly before fading from public attention. The timing, Isabella murmured, pieces falling into place. Carducci dies, then Papa, then Franco Moretti steps down, and Alessandro takes over. Isa, you're scaring me. Marco gripped her arm. Whatever you're investigating, stop. These people are dangerous. I think Papa was involved in something illegal with the Morettis, she admitted. And I think his death wasn't an accident. Marco's face paled. Then why are you working for them? Why is Alessandro Moretti keeping you close? The question haunted her as she returned to her apartment. Inside, she immediately sensed something wrong. Nothing was visibly disturbed, but the air felt different, as if someone had recently been there. On her bedroom pillow lay a single black rose and another note. Final warning. Some secrets protect the innocent as well as the guilty. Isabella's phone rang. Alessandro's name lighting up the screen. How did you get into my apartment? She demanded. I didn't. His voice was tense. But I know who did. Where are you? Home. Leave immediately. Go somewhere public. I'm sending someone to get you. Why should I trust you? A pause. Because despite what you believe, I'm not your enemy. Then who is? The past. His answer was cryptic. And those who want to use it against both of us. 20 minutes later, sitting in a crowded cafe, Isabella watched a black sedan pull to the curb. The driver opened the rear door, revealing Alessandro himself, rather than the security detail she'd expected. Their eyes met through the window. In that moment, Isabella faced a choice. Continue running from the truth, or get into the car with the man who held the answers she sought, even if those answers might destroy her. Taking a deep breath, she stepped outside to meet her fate. The private jet hummed steadily as it carried them toward Geneva. Alessandro had insisted the business trip couldn't wait, despite the threats against Isabella. You'll be safer with me than alone in Milan, he'd explained, brooking no argument. Now he sat across from her in the luxurious cabin, reviewing documents while she pretended to focus on her laptop. The silence between them crackled with tension. You still haven't told me why someone broke into my apartment, Isabella finally said. Alessandro looked up, his expression guarded. The ledger you found belonged to your father. Others want it. What others? Rivals. Former associates. People who believe it contains information that could damage the Moretti family. Does it? His smile was humorless. If it did, would I have brought you to Switzerland rather than silenced you in Milan? The blunt assessment sent a chill down her spine. So I'm here because you need me. You're here because the Donati acquisition requires your financial expertise. His eyes held hers. And because I prefer to keep potential problems where I can see them. In Geneva, they checked into a luxury hotel, their suites connected by a shared living area. The business meetings proceeded efficiently, Isabella's analysis of the Donati Group's financials proving invaluable. Alessandro watched her with something like pride as she dismantled the other company's inflated projections. You were impressive today, he admitted as they returned to the hotel. Dark clouds gathered outside, promising a storm. I was doing my job. Isabella kept her tone professional despite the warmth his praise ignited. Your father would be proud. The comment seemed genuine, lacking the underlying threat of his previous mentions of her father. Would he, or would he be horrified? I'm working for the man who might be responsible for his death. Alessandro's expression darkened. Is that what you believe? Before she could answer, his phone rang. The conversation was brief, his responses clipped. The storm has grounded all flights, he announced after hanging up. We're staying another night. Lightning flashed outside their hotel window as they shared a tense dinner in the suite's dining area. The bottle of wine Alessandro ordered gradually softened the edges of their conversation. Why did you really hire me? Isabella asked, emboldened by the wine and the intimacy created by the storm raging outside. Alessandro studied her over his glass. Because you're exceptional at what you do, and I wanted to see what you'd become. His admission hung in the air between them. The girl on the balcony showed promise. The woman exceeded expectations. Heat crept up her neck. You could have found me any time in the last 8 years if you were truly interested. I did find you. His voice dropped lower. I kept my distance for your protection. Protection from what? Thunder crashed, and the lights flickered before plunging the suite into darkness. Isabella gasped, instinctively reaching across the table. Her hand found Alessandro's, his fingers closing around hers with surprising gentleness. Stay here, he murmured, releasing her to retrieve his phone for light. In the soft glow, his features appeared younger, more vulnerable. He lit several candles from the suite's emergency kit, creating islands of golden light in the darkness. You asked what I was protecting you from, he said, returning to sit beside her on the sofa, rather than across from her. The truth about your father would have put you in danger. What truth? Alessandro's gaze fell to his hands. Your father wasn't just an employee. He was my mentor, my confidant when my own father became too consumed by power. Pain flashed across his features. He helped me prepare to take control of the family business, both legitimate and otherwise. You're saying my father helped groom you to become a mafia boss? Isabella couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. I'm saying he saw what my father was becoming and helped me develop a different vision. Alessandro's voice held unexpected emotion. Franco Moretti was losing himself to greed and violence. Antonio, your father, showed me a path that could gradually legitimize our operations without triggering a war. The revelation stunned her. Then why did he die? Because someone discovered his influence over me. Alessandro's eyes reflected candlelight and old pain. The same people who killed Vincenzo Carducci when he tried to help us clean certain financial channels. Isabella struggled to reconcile this version of her father with the man she'd known. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. His honesty was disarming. But it's the truth nonetheless. Their eyes locked in the flickering light, the storm raging outside, mirroring the turmoil within. Isabella couldn't say who moved first. Only that suddenly Alessandro's lips were on hers, hungry and desperate. She responded with equal fervor. 8 years of denial crumbling in an instant. His hands tangled in her hair as he deepened the kiss, pulling her closer until she was pressed against his chest. The forbidden attraction that had simmered between them exploded into something primal and undeniable. Then, as suddenly as it began, Alessandro pulled away, regret darkening his features. This can't happen, he said hoarsely. Not until you know everything. Morning brought sunshine, restored power, and renewed professional distance. Alessandro arranged their return to Milan without mentioning the kiss, treating Isabella with cool courtesy that felt worse than anger. On the flight home, he buried himself in work, leaving her to wrestle with confused emotions and unanswered questions. Back at Moretti headquarters, Isabella found herself reassigned to a special project, requiring her exclusive attention. The isolation wasn't coincidental. Alessandro was keeping her separated from her regular duties and colleagues. The project files revealed the true nature of her role in Alessandro's grand plan. She wasn't analyzing a potential acquisition, but rather reconstructing financial networks established years ago. Networks her father had helped create. Each document revealed another layer of Antonio Rossi's involvement with the Moretti Empire, painting a picture of a man far more complex than the loving father she remembered. Most disturbing was evidence suggesting her father had betrayed the Moretti family shortly before his death. Financial records indicated large sums diverted through Carducci's bank, then moved offshore days before both men died. Isabella's office door opened without warning. Alessandro entered, locking it behind him. You've seen it all now, he said, his expression inscrutable. My father stole from your family. The words tasted bitter. That's one interpretation. What's yours? Alessandro's jaw tightened. Your father discovered my own father was planning to eliminate me. I was pushing too hard for legitimacy, threatening Franco's power and old alliances. Antonio moved those funds to protect me, to ensure I'd have resources independent of my father's control. So he was trying to help you. Relief flooded her, quickly followed by confusion. Then who killed him? Franco discovered the diverted funds but misunderstood the motive. He ordered Carducci's death as a warning. Alessandro's eyes darkened with old grief. Your father's accident followed when he threatened to expose Franco. The revelation hit Isabella like a physical blow. Your father murdered mine. Yes, no excuses, no softening of the truth. And you've known this for 8 years. Betrayal cut through her. You've been watching me, waiting for what? The right moment to use me. To protect you, Alessandro countered. When I took control after forcing my father into retirement, his loyalists still held power. They would have eliminated you and your brother. If they'd known, Antonio's children survived. So hiring me, bringing me into your world, it was all about keeping your enemies close. The pain in her chest was unbearable. It began that way, he admitted. I needed someone I could trust to help dismantle the last of my father's financial networks. Someone who could recognize his patterns. Because I think like my father. The pieces clicked into terrible place. You've been using me to finish what he started. Alessandro moved closer. But that's not all it became. The kiss in Geneva. Her laugh was bitter. Part of your manipulation? No. His voice dropped. That was the moment I realized I'd crossed a line I never intended to cross. Isabella turned away, fighting tears. How convenient that your confession comes after I've already done the work you needed. Isabella. His hand on her arm was gentle but insistent, turning her to face him. I've been watching you for 8 years. Not just to protect you or use your skills. I watched because I couldn't look away. Why should I believe anything you say? Because despite everything, you know me. His eyes held hers, stripped of pretense, just as I know you. The truth of it resonated painfully. In the weeks they'd worked together, she'd glimpsed the man beneath the Moretti name. Driven, complex, haunted by his family's legacy, yet determined to change it. Your father's final message to me was to keep you safe, Alessandro continued. I've honored that promise for 8 years, but I failed to anticipate one thing. What? That when I finally brought you into my world, I wouldn't be able to maintain my distance. His confession hung between them. The girl on the balcony became a woman I couldn't stop thinking about. Isabella stepped back, needing space from his magnetic pull. Even if that's true, we're standing in the wreckage of our father's choices. Your father killed mine. And I've spent 8 years dismantling his empire, piece by piece. Alessandro's intensity was palpable. The project you're completing is the final stage. Once it's done, the old networks are severed forever. A knock interrupted them. Alessandro's security chief with urgent news, Franco Moretti, had suffered a stroke in his retirement villa. The doctors were pessimistic. I need to go, Alessandro said after the man left. But this conversation isn't finished. Alone in her office, Isabella faced an impossible choice. Continue helping Alessandro complete her father's work, knowing he'd manipulated her into this position, or walk away from the truth, and from him. Her computer pinged with an incoming email from an anonymous address. The message contained only an audio file and 1 line of text. What Alessandro Moretti hasn't told you. The recording was a conversation between Alessandro and an unidentified man, dated just 3 weeks before Isabella was hired. The Rossi girl is the key, Alessandro's voice stated coolly. Her father's methods are in her blood. Once she reconstructs the networks, we'll have everything we need. And afterward, the other man asked. Afterward, she becomes a liability, like her father. Isabella's blood turned to ice. The timestamp proved the recording was recent. Not from the past Alessandro claimed to have rejected. She gathered her belongings with shaking hands. Whatever game Alessandro was playing, whatever lies he'd woven around her father's memory and her own heart, she couldn't stay to become another casualty of Moretti ambition. As she rushed toward the elevator, her phone lit up with Alessandro's name. She declined the call, then powered off the device entirely. She needed distance to think clearly, to determine if anything he'd told her was true, or if she'd been blind to his betrayal from the beginning. Isabella's apartment wasn't safe. Neither was Marco's. She checked into a small hotel on the outskirts of Milan, using cash and a false name, then called her brother from the hotel's landline. You were right about the Morettis, she told him. I need you to leave the city for a few days. What happened? Marco's voice tightened with worry. I discovered the truth about Papa's death. She couldn't bring herself to share the recording. Alessandro Moretti can't be trusted. After ensuring Marco would stay with friends in Rome, Isabella considered her options. She had enough savings to disappear for a while, but running felt like surrendering to fear and betraying her father's memory. The hotel room television flickered with breaking news. Franco Moretti had died, leaving Alessandro the undisputed head of the family empire. The business channels speculated about the future of Moretti Group under his complete control. 3 days passed in anxious seclusion. Isabella ventured out only for necessities, constantly looking over her shoulder. No sign of Alessandro's men, which seemed almost more unsettling than being found. On the 4th morning, a newspaper slid under her door. No one was in the hallway when she checked. The paper was folded to highlight a small article about a fire at a storage facility. The same facility where she'd hidden her father's ledger and the evidence she'd gathered. Her phone, which she'd finally turned back on, immediately rang with an unknown number. The fire was a warning, a man's voice said when she answered. Return to Moretti, or the next target won't be your possessions. Who is this? Someone who understands Alessandro Moretti better than you do. He's playing both sides, pretending reform while maintaining the old ways. Your father discovered this. So did you. What do you want from me? The network analysis you've been working on. Bring it to the address I'll text you, and you'll receive protection and the full truth about Antonio Rossi's death. The line went dead. Moments later, a text arrived with an address and a time. Midnight. Isabella paced the small room, weighing impossible choices. The recording suggested Alessandro planned to eliminate her once she'd served her purpose. Yet this mysterious caller was equally untrustworthy. As evening approached, she made her decision. She would meet this unknown contact, but on her terms. She copied her work onto a flash drive, embedding a tracking program a tech-savvy colleague had once shown her. She wouldn't surrender the information until she knew who wanted it and why. The meeting location was an abandoned factory on Milan's industrial edge. Isabella parked several blocks away, approaching cautiously through shadows. The building loomed dark, except for a single light visible through dirty windows. Inside, the vast space echoed with her footsteps. The light came from a small office at the back, its door ajar. I brought what you asked for, she called, stopping at a safe distance. A figure emerged from the office. Not the anonymous caller, but an elderly man she recognized from Moretti Group board photographs. Salvatore Vannucci, her father's contemporary and Franco Moretti's longtime consigliere. Isabella Rossi. His smile didn't reach his eyes. So much like your father. Too clever for your own good. You sent the recording. Understanding dawned. You doctored Alessandro's voice. Vannucci shrugged. Technology makes many things possible. The important part is that you believed it. Why the deception? Alessandro Moretti is destroying everything we built. Bitterness edged his words. Franco understood power. His son dismantles our strength in the name of legitimacy. You worked with Franco to kill my father. The realization hit with stunning clarity. Antonio became a problem when he filled Alessandro's head with reformist nonsense. Vannucci gestured impatiently. The flash drive, please. Your analysis will help us rebuild what Alessandro has torn down. Isabella's hand closed around the drive in her pocket. You were Franco's man all along, even after Alessandro took control. Some loyalties run deeper than succession. Vannucci's expression hardened. The drive, Isabella, now. A new voice cut through the tension. She's not giving you anything, Salvatore. Alessandro emerged from the shadows behind her, flanked by 2 security men. His eyes never left Vannucci as he moved to Isabella's side. I wondered how long it would take you to make your move. Alessandro addressed the older man. Using Isabella was clever. She came willingly, Vannucci countered. Once she heard your plans for her. Alessandro's jaw tightened. Whatever recording you fabricated doesn't change the truth. He turned to Isabella, his eyes intense. I never planned to harm you. Never. Pretty words from a man who's betrayed everyone who trusted him. Vannucci sneered, reaching inside his jacket. Gun, one of Alessandro's men shouted. Everything happened in a blur. Alessandro shoved Isabella down as shots rang out. When she looked up, Vannucci lay motionless on the floor, and Alessandro was pressing a hand to his bleeding shoulder. Are you hit anywhere else? He asked her. his voice strained with pain. I'm fine. She helped him sit against a pillar while his men secured the scene. Why did you come? Because I knew he'd approach you eventually. Alessandro winced as she examined his wound. Vannucci was the last of my father's inner circle. He never accepted my leadership or my plans to legitimize our operations. The recording was manipulated. I discussed bringing you into the company. Yes, but never to harm you. His eyes held hers. Check your phone. I've been trying to reach you for days. Her phone showed dozens of missed calls and messages from Alessandro, the most recent containing a voice recording of the full call conversation Vannucci had edited, revealing a completely different context. I need you to trust me now, Alessandro said softly. The choice is yours, Isabella. Walk away from everything. From me, from your father's legacy, or stay and help me finish what he started. Sirens wailed in the distance. Soon authorities would arrive, demanding explanations neither of them was prepared to give. In that moment of crisis, with Alessandro's blood on her hands and 8 years of secrets laid bare, Isabella made her choice. Not based on a teenager's impulsive promise, but on the woman she had become and the man Alessandro was fighting to be. I'll stay, she whispered, her hand finding his. For my father. For the truth. She paused, finally admitting what she'd been fighting since their first reunion. And for you. His fingers tightened around hers as blue lights flashed outside, illuminating the beginning of their shared future. One built not on the ashes of their father's choices, but on their own.